Hey folks, my name is Norb, and today I'll be talking about the new Meze Alba IEMs. These are IEMs geared toward people dipping their toes into high fidelity audio. If you're someone who has been using nothing but wireless earbuds and you're getting curious about a more high-end sound, is this a good place to start? I think the actual audience for these is going to be much broader, and that is a good thing. Quick thanks to Meze Audio for sending me these for review, but note that all conclusions are my own. Also, there's a link in the description you can use if you want to support the channel at no cost to you. These just have a single 10.8mm dynamic driver. This is where I think a lot of people may end up getting hung up with these, since a lot of IEMs today, especially a lot of the chi-fi stuff, will include multiple dynamic drivers, balanced armature drivers, and even planar magnetics at this price. But I think a lot of companies use the number and type of drivers as more of a marketing gimmick than something which actually improves the sound. So don't hold that against the Alba. Here's the thing with Meze. The company takes a really interesting view on the experience of sound. So their focus is on overall enjoyment rather than adhering to any specific target or even having a huge number of drivers. That single driver is housed in this lovely curved compact body, which I found to be ergonomically magnificent. These are the most comfortable IEMs I've ever used, and I can wear them all day long without a problem. The Alba come with 4 pairs of tips, extra small to large, and with these, sound isolation has been excellent. The only reason I haven't taken these on flight is because I've been too scared to lose the case before filming this review, which is something that happened just recently on a trip to Japan. Speaking of the case, it is leather, it feels great in the hand, fits well in the pocket. I absolutely love this thing. I do want to call out one design feature that I'm sure you've noticed. This thing here on the side, it's called the trumpet, and it's there to help out with the bass, but it's also a distinctive part of the visual design. Anyway, if this is your first time here, then know that I score things from 1 to 5, where 1 means I hate it and 5 means that I love it. For both design and comfort, I'm giving these a 5 out of 5. I don't think Meze could have done a better job. As for the build, the shell is a zinc alloy and anodized aluminum combination. Zinc alloy is lighter, it's more durable, and it transfers less heat, and anodized aluminum is scratch resistant, so it sits in the outside. But that doesn't mean that it's scratch proof, and in fact, I did get a couple of chips on these, especially around the trumpet area. I've had these now for a few months, as I said, about 3 months now, and I did use them frequently, but I wasn't especially rough on them, so that caught me by surprise. Hey folks, Post-Edit Norb here with a quick but important update. I just spoke with Meze Audio about the paint issue, and they've added an extra layer of lacquer to production units to help prevent the scratching issues that I mentioned in this section. While my overall conclusions remain, I have removed the score from this section since I haven't tested out the new units myself, and that would impact the score. But I'm hopeful that the extra step will take care of the issue and keep production versions looking newer for longer. There's no real seams where these would break apart, and I doubt that the pearl finish will fade over time. Body aside, the cable itself is great. It's flexible but durable, and I don't think I've ever once had these tangle on me. I do get a little concerned with the edges here though. It's hard plastic, so I wonder if that will fray the shielding on the cable over time. It is a 2-pin connector, and by default it comes with a decently long cable that ends in a 3.5mm jack, as well as an additional USB-C to 3.5mm DAC adapter, which handles up to a 384 kHz maximum sampling rate. Now, just a heads up that you can also pick up a 4.4mm balanced output cable if that's better for you. This brings me to the sound. Keep in mind that everything I'm about to say is ultimately subjective. I don't have measurements, just my experience as a musician and as a lover of audio. For the Alba, Meze went with a neutral, somewhat warm sound. Practically speaking, I found these to be slightly more geared toward voices and acoustic instruments, although how effective this was depended very heavily on the mix itself. Starting with the bass. I found these to be responsive, tight, and very clean. Definitely no muddiness anywhere, although there's that organic warmth that is inherent to dynamic drivers. So while these can produce some solid bass performance, even giving some great rumble and physicality at times, it's the mids and the vocals that really take the show. First, let's look at the good. If you're a fan of female vocals, especially more jazzy or folksy vocals, think Norah Jones, Tracy Chapman, Alison Krauss, or maybe even Taylor Swift, then you're going to love the Alba. In fact, I've become a huge fan of Love's music, and if I were to get a pair of IEMs just to listen to her music, then I couldn't think of anything more perfect than the Alba. It also goes for men's vocals, although I didn't find these to be as satisfying and full as the women's vocals. For example, Disturbed's rendition of Sound of Silence sounded fantastic, but I could have definitely used a bit more emphasis in the lower frequencies. For voices that are a bit higher in the register, like Phil Collins or Darius Rucker, these definitely sound satisfying. Another set of pieces I'll add to the Perfect for the Alba playlist are the Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga collaborations. Normally, I find his voice to be a little overpowering in those, but I feel that here it was more even and maybe even a little too tilted in Lady Gaga's direction, at least to my ears. And in fact, that brings me to my next point. To my ears, these sound like they have an emphasis in the mid-upper mids, and sometimes this comes off as being too forward here. And this is where the emphasis on the mids takes a turn for the not so good. For example, Miley Cyrus's rendition of Zombie, which is a version I really love, was one that I didn't quite enjoy with these. I think a lot of this might have to do with the highs. At least to my ear, the Alba sound like they have some additional sparkle, which drives a lot of this. And this means the upper region might get a little bump. This was especially obvious to me with percussion. Things like bells and snare drums would cut right through pretty much anything. And that felt a little too piercing for me at times. Higher end electronic music would do the same. This extra emphasis on the highs does add some great clarity and detail to these, while still keeping that nice organic quality that dynamic drivers have. Along with the detail, the imaging on these was great. In fact, this was where classical and jazz shone. I was listening to Lisa Furtzman's performance of the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto 80 Minor, and I was able to hear the violinist move as she performed. Now, in the recording, this comes out as a bit of a panning issue. You'll hear the music mostly on one speaker, then it'll come to the other, and then back and forth. What's happening here is that there are a few microphones around the violinist recording, and as she plays the piece, she will move around. Different microphones will pick up that movement, and it shows up in the master. In Al Foster's T.S. Monk, the left and right separation is so clear that I was able to really spot how the trumpet and the sax were entirely different channels, and I was able to pick up details that I've never really been able to pick up before. I've had good headphones with these, don't get me wrong, and I've heard it in all kinds of good equipment, but it was just really clear with these and something that I really enjoyed. When it comes to movies, no surprise, I thought that these were great for those, especially since it was so easy to hear people above the action and music. The same pros and cons as music carry over into movies. So if the movie is not mixed well or is mixed with extra emphasis in some regions, they'll come out a little bit more harshly on these than they should. As for games, I have to take this back to detail, which, along with the emphasis that these have on some frequency regions, is especially useful for games. Listening to footsteps behind you or something in the distance, the imaging along with the detail was something that I found really useful with these. So overall for sound, I'm giving these a 4 out of 5. Generally, I love them. In music, women's vocals and bass were both fantastic. The imaging made movies and games a joy. But these are sometimes a little too revelatory, and some productions may not play well with these. Now, everything about the branding on the Alba says start here. From the name itself, which means first light, to the symbol on the box, which is based on the Marmuresh symbol for the morning sun. So, should you get the Alba? I'd say yes for most people. If you're looking for something at around $100, I'd suggest stretching your budget and considering these. On the other hand, if you're looking for the $300 mark, these should still be in consideration. Overall, I think that the Alba are really great general purpose IEMs, which I've enjoyed with pretty much everything I've thrown at them. In fact, my final score on these is a 4.3 out of 5, which is a very high score in my book, largely due to how good of a value I feel that these are. I hope you found this useful, and if you did, please consider a thumbs up and a sub, and maybe saying hello in the comments. I hate to give you homework, but this kind of stuff really helps out a channel out like mine. And if after this you still have questions about something I may have missed, hit me up in the comments. I try to answer as many questions as I can. With that said, click here to watch my latest video, or click here to watch something that YouTube thinks that you'll enjoy. Take care.